Welcome to the gathering of this special educational session. So good to see all you guys. I request all of you, just a second. I request all the attendees to keep your videos on throughout the session for our speaker to have an interactive session. I am Shri Khevde and I have been part of Sober Toastmasters for more than a year. Ralph C. Smedley, in March 24, 1905, started a movement called Toastmasters. The reason behind this movement was that he figured that people have a tough time raising a toast and speaking publicly. In order to help them fight their fear of public speaking, Toastmaster Club was initiated. Today, we have numerous clubs across the globe, 154 countries to be precise, one of which is Sober Toastmasters Club. In Sober Toastmasters Club, we are here to share our knowledge system when it comes to conducting a Toastmasters meeting. In order to help with that, Sober Toastmasters Club have started a community outreach program to share our knowledge in form of series of awesome sessions, evaluation, table topic, T-mod, and tag-L. In order to execute our vision, we initiated Project University Pushpagiri. To give a small context of University Pushpagiri, it used to be an oasis of knowledge in ancient India, where people would come from across the globe and study from the best professors and turn themselves into better humans. To draw parallels, Sober Toastmasters Club has the best Toastmasters who have been 10 years, 20 years experience into the Toastmasters fraternity, who are here to help us learn. After having a successful 3 educational sessions, we have gathered here for the 4th session of awesome auxiliary role players. After the presentation is done, we will have question answer sessions. And today, to share his experience on auxiliary roles, we have a great person who is an entrepreneur, legal consultant, part-time teacher of business laws, full-time student. He's Sober's very own grammar Nazi. He has been around before than God. You can say that Sober Toastmasters Club is his baby. He is someone who Shashi Tharoor refers to when he has problems talking in parliament. He is someone to whom people go for guidance because he is nothing less than an angel. With a huge round of applause, please welcome distinguished Toastmaster Hasnain Changi.
Thank you very much, Shri, for that lovely introduction. Most of it was, of course, untrue, which everybody knows. But hello, all of you lovely people, and welcome to this archaeological evening. Yes, you heard that right, archaeological, with a little bit of a difference. For far too long, we've been just scratching the surface. Today, we're going to dig deep. We'll go below the substrata, and we'll try and find out if we can discover some hidden gems in the field of auxiliary roles. When I first began my journey in Toastmasters, I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out why anybody would want to be motivated or want to volunteer for any of these auxiliary roles. Except for the grammarian role, I couldn't understand anything. Grammarian also because while I was growing up in my teenage years, I had fallen in love with the English language. And I've been steadfast in my love ever since then. So I understood what grammarian roles were, but I couldn't understand why people would want to do our counter, listener, or the timer's role. So I had got into Toastmasters, but Toastmasters had yet to get into me. After spending some time at Toastmasters, Toastmasters began to get into me when I really understood the meaning of the mission of Toastmasters and the promise that I had taken when I had entered Toastmasters for the first time. That was when the beauty of these auxiliary roles started to unveil themselves before my eyes. And then I saw that this is where the Toastmasters International mission and philosophy is being lived on. At the heart of Toastmasters International, there is the philosophy of constructive evaluation. These auxiliary roles are nothing but evaluations, and therefore their importance cannot be overemphasized. So now, before we get into the why of auxiliary roles, just for the benefit of those people who are actually recent recruits to the Toastmasters movement. Let's get them to know the what and the how so that they get a nodding acquaintance with the auxiliary roles. So what are these roles? We begin with the timer. What does a timer do? Essentially, a timer helps us to construct our speeches in such a way that they fit in, all our thoughts are fitted in within that allotted time given to us. It helps us keep track of the time. And one of the most important skills that Toastmasters teaches us is to organize all our thoughts in such a way that we can deliver them, communicate our ideas within the allotted time span. If in case we understand that we have overshot the time, we have to relook our speeches and restructure them accordingly. We have to understand which points we have to give emphasis to and which we have to make more concise. There is a script available for these roles, and here it is. So most of the clubs have a standard script. We have a script too at Sobo Toastmasters, and we'll be happy to share it with anybody who wants these scripts after the meeting. So the introductory speech is there, and then the green card, the yellow card, the red card, etc., which needs to be displayed for each segment. So for the speakers, the prepared speakers, the table topic speakers, as well as for evaluations, the timings are set and they are to be recorded on a sheet. It's great if you can familiarize yourself with that sheet, which will be coming up right now on your screen. There is a timer sheet which we use for the contest. I will encourage everybody to start using this even in your club meetings. So well before the meeting begins, it's a great idea to write down the name of all the speakers and the time that has been allotted to them. So if it's a icebreaker, so obviously 4 to 6 minutes. If it's a longer speech, 5 to 7 minutes. And then there are advanced speeches of 12 minutes, even 20 minutes. You need to know exactly how much time that person has. And if in case you have these advanced speakers speaking, a good idea would be to approach them before their speech and ask them when they would like you to show the green, yellow, and red cards. Red card obviously at the end, but when they would like to be signaled that their minimum qualifying time has been achieved. So that is it. And now some timer tips. But before that, in Sobo Toastmasters Club, we have another very good practice, which I wonder if other people might find it useful too. So we have another timer who times the sessions, not just the speakers. The speakers are timed by timer 1, say, and the timer 2 times everything in between. This ensures that all the other segments, for example, the Toastmaster of the day, the Sergeant at Arms, the Table Topics Master, they all stick to their allotted time, and therefore nobody else who's coming in later needs to sacrifice their segment in order for the meeting to finish in time. This is fair to all, and this keeps us all the time on our toes as far as the time is concerned. So now your timer tips, please use the timer record sheet, make it a habit, because going forward in the contest, you will need to use just these sheets. The next tip is, and this is very important, don't just sulk in a corner. Sit down in a place where you're visible. Try to find a point at which you're visible with the entire audience, not just the speaker. Because as an audience member, I would also like to know how much time the speaker has left and whether that speaker is going to be able to conclude it in a satisfactory manner or not. Show the cards so that everybody can see them. Keep it raised. Often, we tend to just raise it so that the speaker can see it and then lower it. Don't lower it. Keep it on until it's time to show the next card. But take care to see that the card is not raised so high as to obscure the speaker's face from the view of the audience. Keep it in a way that is visible, but not obscuring the view. The next tip is to stick to the script. There are times when we tend to veer too far away from the set course, and before we know it, you're too far gone. So come back, stay to the script. It's all right if you add in a couple of quotes or a one-liner or something like that, but don't stray too far away from the script. That will ensure that you yourself are within the timelines. And then once you have done all of that and you're called upon to give your report, give your report. perfectly, concisely, but say the time for every speaker. This is your moment. Don't hurry up and don't waste it by saying things like everybody is qualified. You're a timer. You're supposed to record that time. If I am giving a 5 to 7 minute speech and you say I have qualified, it could mean anything. I could have spoken for 5 minutes and 1 second, or I could have spoken for 7 minutes and 29 seconds. If I know that I've spoken for 7 minutes, 25 seconds, I am definitely going to relook my speech and resize it. I can't afford to take the speech at a contest and risk getting eliminated because I have been disqualified on account of time. So state the time given by each speaker. Do not succumb to the temptation of running away from the audience by saying this, because this is one of the things that you definitely need to do as a young timer starting out on a Toastmasters journey. You need to face your audience often and you need to stand there for longer. If you can, give a tip, because essentially this is an evaluation role. What we do in evaluations is we make our speakers aware of where the improvement needs to come in. And then if possible, we give a hint or a tip as to how that can be overcome. So let's say, for example, you can give a tip like this. If a person is persistently having problems with managing the time, you could tell that person that a good way to do it would be to record your speech, calculate the number of words that you speak per minute, that is your pace of speaking, and adjust accordingly. So write a speech that, say, for example, I speak at the rate of 100 words a minute. I can't afford to write more than 700 words if I want to stay within that 7 minutes of time. So this would be a good tip. You can think of many other tips like this, which you could share while you are giving your report. All right, so that's about the timer. We now go on to the next role, which is that of the oh, you know, yeah, so like, the counter. Very interesting role, a role which makes you aware of all the errors that have crept in while you were sleeping. These are not errors that one is conscious of. It is only when the counter pointed out to me that I had some 25 ums in my speech that I woke up to the fact that I did need to do something about that quickly. I was not aware of it. Honest. None of the people who use words like yeah, so, like, and you know, are aware of that. They do it. That is why it's called a filler. It's a filler. It's a pause before you can gather your thoughts. And when these pauses become too frequent, then it lowers the quality of your speech. So our counter is there to make a record of everything. Here is a script that is standard for us. It can be your standard also, but you can consult your VP education on this. It's a very simple speech. Repetitive words, etc. You are supposed to make a note of all those done by each speaker, and do not leave out the presiding officer in that. Roast the presiding officer if needs be. Roast the sergeant at arms if she is using too many filler words. Yeah. Don't just focus on the speakers. Do everything that is required on that sheet. There is a sheet which is there for the R counter, and it's quite an exhaustive sheet. So you have to write every occurrence of but, and don't limit yourself to only these filler words. There are many other filler words. There is a school of thought which says good afternoon is a filler phrase. So use that. I mean, if you also think like that, then you put that in a column and you say how many times people have used good afternoon. And at the end or in between also, a lot of people start their sentences with the word so. Completely meaningless, really a filler. I don't know why people use that word so often. Make a note of all of that. Now, when you go up there to give your report, you can say the name of the person who has made those errors. You can say the name of all the people. But what I suggest you do is, instead of being discourteous to the speaker by saying you had 20 ums, say you had more than 5 ums. or so and so many people had less than 5 arms, so many people had more than 5 arms or ers or filler words or whatever it is that you have made a note of. That would be a little bit more considerate. Again, give a tip if you can. Think of some tip. One of the good tips I felt worked for me was I would read aloud something, a paragraph or two from the newspaper or from a book. I would record it, I would play it back, and then I would be my own R counter. But that reading part was easy because you're reading something when you're speaking. So maybe then you can write a paragraph of your own, try and memorize it, or at least the keywords, and then say it in your own words and see whether you're making all those obvious errors and some not so obvious errors. So that's my tip for you. You can think of so many tips to help your fellow Toastmasters get better at this. The next role player, of course, is that my favorite, the grammarian. The grammarian is a very, very important role because all the speakers must always try to speak in a way that the words land easily on the ear. There are so many rhetorical devices that one can use which embellish and adorn the quality of your speech. It really gets enhanced when you use rhetorical devices, when you use phrases which are pleasing to the ear. After all, you are communicating through the medium of the language, albeit 7% only, but still it's 7% in the whole communication package. Make the best use of it, try and improve your grammar, and take the help of the grammarian in that respect. Now, none of us studied grammar at school. Formally, I don't think any of us studied grammar formally or even paid much attention to it. But when you listen to programs like the BBC, when you listen to good audiobooks, grammar automatically comes inside you and you know instinctively what the correct usage would be. But still we make some obvious errors, and that is when the grammarian comes in. The grammarian's responsibility is also not only to make a note of the good usages and the not so good usages of grammar, but also to unveil the word of the day. So every meeting, one word is introduced. A word of the day, an idiom of the day. My suggestion would be for the grammarian to do a little bit of research on the word that she is going to present to the club. Once you do the research, and I love it when a person presents the etymology, that is the, I'm sorry, we'll get back to the script in just a bit after I finish this. So the etymology is very important. Once I understand the root of the word that I am unveiling, that is when I can also understand the offshoots and the branches from that root word. So we'll come to this root word. For today, I will be unveiling a word of the day. And so before that, I will take you back to a couple of slides for the script of the grammarian. So here's the script, pretty standard and pretty exhaustive. It is also my responsibility to introduce the word and the idiom of the day, etc. And you have to keep track of the use of the word and idiom of the day. Now, this line, I encourage everyone to show a thumbs up to the speaker, is something that you can use, you need not use. It's not a mandate by Toastmasters. Personally, when I'm speaking and I use the word of the day, which is very rarely, but when I do use the word of the day and I see a thumbs up, I lose my train of thought. So I would not encourage anyone to show a thumbs up to the speaker, but make a note. The grammarian, of course, should make a note, and the other people in the audience would love to hear the use of the word of the day and the idiom of the day correctly. And when you're called upon to present your report by the general evaluator, do it in a way which is uplifting, elevating. So coming back to the grammarian's worksheet, a pretty exhaustive worksheet is there where you can write the name of the speaker on the top of the column, and every row gives you a certain parameter in which to assess the speaker on. So good expressions, you can make a note of all the good expressions that you heard during the meeting, who used them. Please make sure that you do not repeat the mispronounced word as it was mispronounced. Say the correct pronunciation and just say that these are the words that I heard mispronounced. Apple, ball, whatever, parents, this, that, etc. Whatever you heard, do not say the mispronunciation. Also, when there is a blatant incorrect usage of the English language, Try not to repeat the phrase verbatim. Just allude to it and then say the correct usage of that word. All right. So the word of the day. The word of the day today is auxiliary. Auxiliary. The root word is aug. There is also a Proto-Indo-European root, which is from the Sanskrit, ojas. Ojas means strength. Aug means to increase, which is where the words augment came from, auction came from, and auxiliary came from. Auxiliary means to be of help to someone. So now auxiliary role is a very important role, because the auxiliary role is the one that helps each one of us grow bigger or better or greater. I unveiled one word. I'm going back with 4. Auxiliary, augment, auction, and inaugurate. So if this practice is followed, it not only as a grammarian, if I hunt for the root of the idiom of the day and the word of the day, my knowledge base also increases. And I think of being of a little bit more help to all the audience members. Yeah. So that is my suggestion to all grammarians. Do that. Give your report concisely. Tisha, can we go ahead? And you can leave as usual with one tip. If you like to add on to the script, this is not mandatory. This is not compulsory. If you can think of a good tip so that every one of us can benefit from it. An example of that is a common mistake a lot of people make is to say one of my friend, because the connotation is one of my friend, which is wrong. Friends is a set, big set. The subset of that is one of my many friends, etc., etc., etc. And then you say one of my friends has or have, and then the subject and the verb are not in agreement. So the good way to do it is always try and leave that kind of a tip. Have your verbs in agreement with your subjects. Yeah. You can think of many other tips like that, which can help. Meeting to meeting, one tip, a world of a difference gets created by the end of 1 year. And so that brings us to the role of the listener. Everybody knows it's a kind of set phrase in Toastmasters. To be a great speaker, you need to be an even greater listener. So we need to improve the power of listening. Our entire growth depends on how well we listen. If we keep our ears open, we will come across so many things that will add not just to our knowledge base, to our vocabulary, to our way of thinking, to our powers of writing speeches, to better ways of delivering it, if we just keep our ears open. So the listener here plays a very important role, because in this day and age of very, very short attention spans, our focus tends to waver very quickly. It's not just the phone, it's the one person sitting next to you, whatever. So many things keep distracting us. So we do have a standard script here. Here it is. So the script is pretty standard. I don't need to read this out to you. I'm sure you have a script yourself of listener. If you don't, at the end of a couple of slides, we'll give you a barcode that you can scan and download all these scripts yourself. And then we don't have a sheet for this. You need to take your book and pen with you, and you need to make a note of all those things that strike you as worthy of remembering. And so you can ask questions on those. So listener tips are here. Many a times, and in fact, this is a common standard practice, that a listener just throws open a question to the audience. And we don't know who's to answer. So I can afford to just sit back and relax and not answer at all. I am so sorry, Jatin. I think I need the time from you. I cannot see you. Anyway, so you don't just throw out a question. You just pick a person who will answer and then pose the query. This will ensure that people will stay on their toes all their time. So I won't have a moment to relax. I will learn to keep my focus on for longer and longer durations. Yeah. So pick the person who will answer and then pose a little bit like table topics. Get on the person first and then ask the question. Next is the questions, remember, should always be factual, not interpretive. What do you think that the speaker meant when she said this? No, no, no. Exact factual only, not interpretive, because that is very subjective. The next is, so yeah, once in a while, do ask the question on what that speaker was, what project that speaker was presenting. This helps everybody because a lot of times when the evaluator is saying which project and what the objectives are, most of us tune out. Let us stay tuned in for what that project is and what the objectives are so that when we get a chance to attempt that project, that we will know how to do it better because we've already seen it done once. So for the audience members, the tip that the listener can give is to make note of the few keywords while you are listening, and then you train yourself to write while looking at the speaker. This will help you listen more actively and become an active listener. Why I say this, practice this now, improve your listening skills, because tomorrow you could be a judge at a speech contest and you will not be holistically listening. So please keep in mind these little tips, little tricks to, sustain your focus for a long time, and gradually you will find a great transformation happening to you in the quality of your enjoyment of the speeches and in your growth as a Toastmaster. So I think that about covers everything I needed to say. And to access all the scripts, you can just scan this code. But please remember, none of the scripts are cast in stone. You're free to change them. You're free to ask your own Vice President Education as to what your standard is. And if that they don't have, and if you're not happy with this one, download the ones in the TI website. Yeah. So now with that, I hand it over back to Shri. Because we shall now go into the question answer session. And this question answer session is going to be a little different because Shri is going to ask you some questions and you are going to answer them. All right. And to help you do that, I want to show you two slides. One is the slide of the why we are into it. This is your major question. Why should you take these roles? And the next most important slide is, I want you to once again read the mission of a Toastmasters Club and the Toastmasters promise. The one promise that you all took when you joined Toastmasters, especially the point number 4, to provide fellow members with helpful, constructive evaluations, and the 7th, to treat my fellow members and club members and guests with respect and courtesy. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the core of the Toastmasters movement. The core values of a Toastmasters International are integrity, service, respect, and excellence. Evaluations is what we are doing when we are Toastmasters. And this is what is going to help us in life afterwards. Shri, take it away, ask the questions.
Thank you so much, DTM, Hasnain, Changi. This was an amazing and insightful session. As always, it's a boon to hear you speak. Every time anyone who comes and listens to you, they always take away something from the sessions that you provide. So my first question should be to DTM Abbas. Please unmute yourself. How do you think Hasnain described a timer should behave? Should he be sitting in a corner or should he be sitting in front of the speaker?
He said, don't crib and don't be something and sit in the corner. Instead, sit in the front and do your role. So I think he said sit in the front and do your job.
Thank you so much, DTM Abbas. How about Toastmaster Shripad? Toastmaster Shripad? Yes.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. What is the idea behind the role of listener? Why do we do the listener role?
Basically is to understand the speech, first of all, the language used in the speech, and also to point out, to note down those and other things, okay, as a good listener, so that what is the theme of the speech or what is the topic of the speech and where the speech goes really. It may go somewhere at different angle at also, because sometimes some icebreaker speeches also go in different fashion. That's it.
Right. So DTM Hasnain, why don't we have your approval every time someone answers? So maybe we can have a thumbs up from you every time someone answers correctly.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. You asked two very relevant questions and we've got two very good answers. Now it's my turn to ask two questions.
So,
first question will be to Arpan. Arpan, in the light of the Toastmasters mission and in the light of the Toastmasters promise that we have all taken, what do you think is the benefit and why should I do the role of the grammarian?
Okay, these are two questions. Sorry. First is for the why is it important for a mission of to give the mission of the statement of the club. So that's what I remember, that we should give a constructive feedback with evaluations. That was one. Right. So that was, and second, grammarian role importance.
Okay, I'll rephrase my question. I'm sorry if I confused you with my question. My question was in the light of the Toastmasters mission, Toastmasters club mission. You remember the club mission, right? Of Toastmasters.
Yes. Yes.
In the light of the mission, how does the grammarian's role fit in?
Okay. To give evaluation in a constructive manner with usage of correct English, incorrect and correct usage of English, and highlighting the vocabulary. And one more point I have written. And one example you had given, one of the friends.
Perfect, Arpan. Thank you very much. That is a good answer. Just a little more elaboration on that would have completed it by saying that when you do all of this, you are helping your fellow Toastmasters to grow in self-confidence because she is becoming a much better public speaker. And that is the mission of a Toastmasters club. We are providing a supportive and positive learning experience so that all members are empowered to become better communicators and leaders, resulting in greater self-confidence. What are we doing at Toastmasters? We are here to grow in our own self-confidence, our own personal growth. But what is the medium? The medium is when I help you grow and you help me grow. A very symbiotic relationship, and that is the philosophy of Toastmasters. We are all in this together, and our kicks come from watching our fellow Toastmasters grow. I'm happy to see DTM Arvind here, so I'm not going to lose this opportunity of getting him on the spotlight. Arvind, in the light of the promise that we took when we joined Toastmasters first, and in the light of the mission of a Toastmasters club, how do you think the R counter fits in?
Hasnain, I just happened to see your slide where you showed the mission of the Toastmaster club mission, and I think it says environment. And I was just looking up. It should be the experience. I think you've got the old thing that is there. Probably that needs to be changed. And in the light of the question that you asked, the R counter, that's another role that has to be taken. And the promise always says, come up whenever you need, when you are required. And this doesn't only, I know we're talking only about role players, but it also comes for officers as well, because it's soon going to be time for elections. And come forward. And with all this that Hasnain has been talking about auxiliary roles, it only enhances your leadership skills. There's one thing, Hasnain, that I found that you were talking about the timer. We have this notion that the timer is only there to keep time of the speeches. But Toastmasters International says the timer's role is very important. And because the timer is the one who keeps the meeting going within the specified agenda time. So as an additional role or an additional task that the timer should do, I'm sorry, I'm digressing from what you are. This is something that came up. The timer when a section is over and you're calling the timer to give the timer's report, please, all the main role players must have the agenda. And the timer must have the agenda and must inform the meeting that we are running either early, we are running ahead of time, or we are late by so many minutes, for the simple reason that the next main role player could be the table topic master. He has to sacrifice the number of questions that he's going to ask. Remember, this is no thing. The Toastmasters helps us to control our ego, our emotions. This is one place where we learn how to sacrifice and not bother about, oh, we have done it, but whatever I have written, I must let it out. No, in the interest of time, please avoid that. Is there anything more I need to say on the R counter?
No, thank you. Yeah, we could go on listening to you forever, Arvind. But thank you.
Hasnain, I'm so happy that you're giving them all this gyan.
There you have it from the man himself. None more experienced and none who has stepped forward and done every role, worn every hat that was available in Toastmasters. Moving on, we'll throw the floor open for any questions. Although I don't think there should be any, because I think between us, we've done a great job. Chalo, if there are, we'll try and answer them together. Jisha, you want to see if there are any questions?
Nobody's raised their hand yet. We have. Sri, go ahead.
Yeah. So, DTM Hasnain, I have been going across a lot of different clubs, some small clubs, some big clubs, in comparison to Sobo. So in few clubs, I've seen that they don't have a listener role or they don't have a joke master role. So what is it like? What do we do in such circumstances? Is it important for such clubs to incorporate such a role, or is it like okay to let it go because it's a small club or anything like that? What is your take on it?
The listener role and the joke master role and all such other roles are not at all mandated by Toastmasters International. It's only the R counter, grammarian, and the timer which are mandatory. Even the R counter can be done away with in an exigency. If you have some role players short, you could do away with the R counter, but timer and grammarian are important. Joke master is not mandated at all. And today we were concerned with the roles that were aiding evaluations. I'm not sure joke master comes in that category. Joke master is a speech role. It's not an evaluation role. So today we confine ourselves. So bother not. If they are there, good. If they can spare the time, great. If they can't spare the time, it's not a necessary role.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Abbas?
Hasnain, I have.
No, we're not taking
I
any
have-
questions from Abbas.
No, it's not my question. It's a question from the chat. So I'm just going to bring that forward to you. We've got two questions on the chat. Both speakers have requested not to give their names. So I'm just going to ask you the question. The first one is, okay, how do you share your report, any of it, timer, grammarian, color counter, without offending the speaker? For example, you said today that without
Sorry?
offending,
Pending.
how do you share your report without offending the speaker? The backstory is, like you said, that it's okay to take names. So how do you do that? How do you manage that line between offending and going with your script?
So where the timer is concerned, there is no question of any offense given or taken because it's just a factual report. It's there. In the case of a listener, also that thing doesn't come in. It's a right answer or a wrong answer. Only problem areas are the R counter and the grammarian. Where the R counter is concerned, if I don't know that I am the one who's making those speaking errors, I will not benefit from that report. So it's something in which thoda sina mazboot karna, you'll have to make your heart a little bit stronger and take it. But when you're delivering the report, like I mentioned as a tip in the R counters report, you need not say, Hasnain, you said 25 ums. That is not done. Please relook at it. That is not the way it is given. You can say that there were a few people who had more than the average number of ums. Among them were Hasnain, Arvind, and Jisha. Shri and Abbas and Shaukat had less than 5 ums. Same thing with ers. Hasnain had 5 ers, more than 5 ers, whatever. So that is one way. Where the grammarian is concerned, I just said that do not, a word is mispronounced. A lot of people say parents. In my opinion, the pronunciation would be parents. But that is the caveat. This is the phrase that one needs to use more often as the report, in the report of the grammarian. It's in your opinion. You're not Ren, you're not Martin. You're definitely not Ren and Martin. You give your opinion on what you feel is the correct usage of that phrase or the correct pronunciation of that word. And don't repeat that mispronunciation. I heard someone say parents. No, that's not the way you say parents. You say parents, not parents. That's not done. So people have laughed once at that mispronunciation inwardly. Don't give them a chance to laugh again. Give them the solution. At the heart of every evaluation is to highlight the areas of improvement. It doesn't stop there. The operative part is the next phrase, and to suggest ways in which that improvement can come about. Otherwise, don't mention it. If you don't know the correct usage, don't say this was incorrect. Yeah. Thank you so much, Abbas.
Thank you very much, Hasnain. We have Arvind's question and then I have a follow-up question. Arvind, I'm unmuting you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Abbas. I just want to add to Hasnain. Somebody says, how do you not make them feel bad? You joined Toastmasters for what reason? One, why is the mission of the Toastmasters Club every time stated? It's a positive and supportive learning experience. What is evaluation? There are different types of evaluation. There's one evaluation which very few people use, and that is only tell the audience where they can improve. But if it is specifically for somebody who's made, like Hasnain said, 25 and 30 times or ah, it's your duty, or it's something that you should do, to go and talk to the person one-to-one and tell him or her that I think you need to, this is the word that I heard too many times, and perhaps you need to control yourself later. Nobody is offended. It's a one-to-one, so they get. Always remember, when we come into a Toastmasters meeting, we're coming to learn, peer learning. And secondly, and this is what I tell when we go to, Hasnain will remember, when we go to corporate clubs, we always tell them, please leave your designations and your ego outside the door and then come into the meeting. Once the door is closed, you are peers, you are all on the same level. And when the meeting is over and the door opens, please pick it up and go back to your seats. So don't be offended. Is it like somebody said, if you are offended, do it on a one-to-one basis. There is something called an evaluation. 4 types of evaluations are there, which sometimes we don't. The 4th one is never used on a one-to-one. Thank you, Abbas.
Thank you, Arvind. Made complete sense. Hasnain, can we take one more question before we call it a day? Okay. Yeah, I've asked you to unmute. Kindly unmute yourself. Okay.
Yes.
Hasnain, another question on the chat, which is related to that of a grammarian, is should we give an easy word as word of the day? or a difficult one, because the idea is to help people maybe learn a new word. The same question for idiom of the day as well. And is idiom of the day a good practice for clubs to follow?
Now, easy and difficult are relative terms. What may be easy for you may be very difficult for me, Abbas. How does one, first of all, define what is easy and what is difficult? Maybe a multisyllabic word could sound difficult, but maybe very easy to a lot of people. So it's a fine balance. What I feel a good word is a word which can be used often, but is not used as often as it should be, because it is expressing a certain level of a sentiment. And we choose to use the go-to word every time. Like, I'm happy. I'm happy is happy for mildly happy, superbly happy, ecstatic, everything. I'm happy. So we can use that kind of a variation just to add to the richness of our vocabulary. And even though it may be easy for Jisha, it could be difficult for a lot of people. So put it, no? Put it, but give the root, give a little bit of history to it, and make it usable. A lot of times, and like I mean, at the risk of sounding like a stuck record, if you give the root, the audience will go with 4, 5, 10 words. And all of them will become easy. That is the good challenge for a grammarian comes on next. Next time you do a grammarian role, try and take this up. Make that difficult word very easy for everybody. Yeah. Thank you, Abbas. I hope I've answered. Oh, yeah, the second part of the question, the idiom of the day. The idiom of the day is good to have, but nowadays idioms are going a little out of the window. It's nice. I like a little bit of history. So let it be. It's good fun. Idiom of the day. Not that they are very usable. In a prepared speech, it's very difficult even to put in the word of the day. Those who do it, my hat is off to them. And idiom of the day is even more difficult. But it's a good thing. Even if it's on the board for a long time, I go home learning a good idiom. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, DTM Hasnain. I believe this concludes our question answers round. With that being said, I would request the Zoom master to felicitate our esteemed speaker, DTM Hasnain, with a certificate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, DTM Hasnain, for that amazing session.
One sentence here.
Sir,
One
yes,
sentence, Shri, if I may.
sir. Yes, sir.
This is a good certificate, but I deserve only 20% of this. 80% of this has to go to Jisha, who is responsible for having made the entire PPT, because everybody knows that I'm too good at technology. So she helped out here. In fact, she steered me through this entire presentation. Thank you very much, Vice President of Sobo Toastmasters, Ms. Jisha Chandan. You're an angel.
Well, isn't she one? Thank you so much, Toastmaster Jisha. So Toastmaster Jatin, who has been the timer. Please spotlight Jatin. Thank you so much. Maybe have the next slide. So guys, this concludes the phase 1 of Project University Pushpagiri, which has been an amazing journey for Sobo Toastmasters. We've got to learn a lot from the amazing DTMs that we got on stage. And this in totality is the end of phase 1. Thank you so much for being supportive and showing up every single time. This slide is about our whereabouts. What do we do on social media, and what all stuff we are planning to do. We will be coming back with another phase that will be phase 2 of Project University Pushpagiri, with a lot more tougher scenes wherein we will have a lot more important people coming in and telling us about more important stuff. But until then, I hope you guys have a great night, have amazing days forward. Wish you all the best. I declare this session ended. Thank you so much.